Can you hear that? Can you hear that sound? That is the unmistakable sound of England fans having a proper moan now Steve Borthwick has named his team. And they see Henry Slade in the starting lineup, George Ford on the bench, and they see the rumoured, the hushed whispers that we've had this week that England are going for an aerial assault and they go into the skies. We've seen that surely realised with the selection of Jack Van Poortvliet and Freddie Steward. Lots to talk about on this video. Been waiting for the England team. Here it is. What do you make of it? Thoughts down below. Give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers. I'm looking forward to Twickenham this weekend. I'm not too optimistic about an England victory, but I'm looking forward to getting out amongst the fans, bringing content on the channel. So, like I say, make sure you follow for that. It actually means this selection of Steve Borthwick with Freddie Steward rumoured this week to be coming in. It's meant I'm starting this. I've never done this before. Welcome to the Egg Chasers weather report. This is the forecast for Twickenham this Saturday afternoon. And it is, unfortunately, from an England perspective, looking like it's going to be pretty much dry. I'm willing there to be rain because it worked for England in Paris back in October last year. So close to a World Cup final with an aerial assault. But it looks like it's going to be cold. It looks like there might be a tiny bit of drizzle, but pretty much dry. And I've checked 3 different weather places. It's not going to happen. Let's look at the England team then. What do you make of it? Let's deal with those 2 changes then. So there are 2 changes due to tactics, and there are 2 changes due to injuries. The injuries first, Emmanuel Faye-Weboso is out, arguably, you know, one of England's best players this year, and that's a massive shame. Ollie Slightholme comes in, scored 2 tries off the bench, really good in attack. And for all the talk about England maybe going to a more pragmatic, quote-unquote, boring game plan, as some would call it, the selection of Ollie Slightholme makes me think actually maybe that's not the case. So Ollie Slightholme in for Emmanuel Faye-Weboso, and Steve Borthwick has he obviously went, oh, who are you? Oh yeah, I remember you. Sam Underhill, you play rugby, don't you? Fancy a game? He's remembered he exists and he's in the side. Tom Curry out injured, which is a shame. Sam Underhill in is great, and he hasn't played for a while. So he'll be like a caged beast. He will be wild, I reckon. I think we're going to see a lot of energy out of Sam Underhill. We'll be making up for lost time. So good with that selection. Those are the 2 changes due to injury. The 2 changes tactically, as I've mentioned, Freddie Steward comes in at fullback for George Furbank. Jack Van Poortvliet comes in at scrum half for Ben Spencer. Both of those players might feel hard done by that they are out of the 23-man squad. I didn't think Ben Spencer covered himself in glory. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. He was better in the game against New Zealand than Australia. Same goes. Harry Randall was poor against New Zealand, better against Australia. Harry Randall continues on the bench. Freddie Steward for George Furbank's the most interesting selection, isn't it? This has been being talked about this week, and it all centres around the law tweaks, the way that box kicks are being refereed, where now defenders are having to make sure they can't run blocking lines, and they give access, what's the phrase they use? Give access to the chasing players to get to the guy in the backfield. Consequently, what George Furbank's kind of best attribute was his ability to counter-attack. But that has been neutered a little bit because of this law change, because there's so much more pressure coming from the defence. George Furbank's counter-attacking hasn't been able to be seen, and as a result, you know, you saw him against Ireland and against France in the Six Nations, doing some amazing things from a counter-attacking perspective. He hasn't really done that in the last couple of games. And so I get the selection of Freddie Steward, because the counter-attacking as an option is not there as much. And there's a lot of people saying, I really like this law change, it's great. And I understand the principle of creating a competition and blocking defenders from running through is not cool. The flip side, and the issue I have, is exactly this. Everyone's been talking about that they hated box kicks. I think this way it's been refereed the last couple of games means you're going to get more box kicks, not less. And you're going to get less counter-attacks, not more. You're going to get more Freddie Steward type players on the pitch than George Furbank type players on the pitch, which I don't think is what rugby fans wanted. But there you go. World Rugby's going to World Rugby. Hopefully it will start to even itself out. There's been some weird penalty calls given for obstruction there, where I don't think the defender can really help it. Anyway, for this game, I understand the Freddie Steward selection. I do. Both from a defensive point of view, it's going to be more challenged by players running through, and South Africa are very good in the air. We've seen them do that many times before, so I get that selection. But also from an attacking point of view, Jack van Poortvliet is England's best tactical kicker, and if he gets really good hang time and chucks it up, Freddie Steward is going to find himself much more able to compete. And I mean, South Africa, Apaleli Fassi's brilliant under the high ball, but you could create a mismatch. Freddie Steward is 6'5". If you try and stick it on Colby or Arendse, Steward could be in business because the South African defenders are not going to be able to block him. So I understand the selection. I actually think it's quite a smart one. I'm not 100% convinced about the law change and the way they're refereeing it, because I'd like to see more attacking rugby, but I get it. I understand this. And that's why, as much as I've, talked about this being an aerial assault and our England going back to how they were at the Rugby World Cup, I don't think that's necessarily the case. And it might just be a little bit of a tweak. And the fact that everything else is staying the same might hint to that. As for the other selections, as I say, there's going to be lots of groans about Henry Slade still being in. I don't think Tommy Freeman being in the centre, whilst I'd be up for it, I'd be up for it from an attacking point of view. It's not going to change the defence, which was actually why England lost against Australia. They scored 37 points, conceded 42. I don't think that's going to change it. And I was chatting to quite a high-level coach earlier today that I know, and I was asking them about it, and they said, and this is just their perspective, but I thought it was quite a reasonable one. They said clearly England's defensive system was implemented by Felix Jones. Felix Jones is not there. Joe Alab hasn't had time to implement his own system, so they're having to continue with Felix Jones's old system, but with different personnel. And that's not going to get changed. In fact, his perspective was it's going to get worse before it's able to get better. So strap in. We might be in trouble here. Might ship a bunch more points. And I don't necessarily think that is the fault of any individual. I don't think that's Henry Slade's fault as an individual. He missed 5 tackles at the weekend. Chandler Cunningham South missed 4 tackles. Jamie George missed 4 tackles. Was it Ben Earl missed? I can't remember which other players. Loads of players missed multiple tackles. Do you pin it on them as well? If that many players are missing that many tackles, I think it's a system issue. And it could well be that we're not going to get the chance to sort this out for a while yet, and maybe after this November. So this could be quite a painful 80 minutes for England against South Africa. I'd have been happy with Tommy Freeman in my team that I picked the other day. I picked Tommy Freeman at 13. But I'm not unhappy with Henry Slade being there. Certainly not as unhappy as other England fans seem to be. I'm not unhappy with George Ford being on the bench. I don't think we should feel obligated to use him. But in fact, the one thing I really hope I don't see at Twickenham on Saturday is people booing George Ford like they did last week. The guy's got 98 caps for his country and has been an amazing rugby player. He still is an amazing rugby player. I love George Ford. Again, a lot of people go, well, Finn Smith's the future, he's young. Yeah, but picking Finn Smith isn't going to win you the game this weekend. It will make no difference. So I actually didn't have a fly half on the bench in my team that I picked, but I don't mind that Ford's there. Certainly, I will be clapping him, not booing him at Twickenham, I can tell you that much. I'm really pleased for Tom Roebuck. And if you want someone to chase kicks, he's your boy. He's absolutely brilliant at that for Sale Sharks. And he's now an England international. Sorry, Scotland, you can't have him. Not this one. As for the rest of the England team, fine. It's just as you were, isn't it? Except for those changes. The bench, still not convinced by. Nick Ezekwe and Alex Dombrant just does not fill me with confidence going up against South Africa. I would have loved Ted Hill. I got Ardy Savia at open side flanker. I got RG Sneeman and Etzebeth at lock. Ted Hill would have been the little hat trick to make me feel like all my rugby wishes had come true, but it wasn't to be. The one thing that gives me a little bit of hope is the fact that Harry Randall is on the bench. Steve Borthwick could have gone with Ben Spencer on the bench and just dropped him down. The fact he's kept Harry Randall there says to me that then, again, another sign that maybe there is an intent to play, because I think he's England's best attacking scrum half. Him and Alex Mitchell would be my two. Alex Mitchell starting, Randall on the bench would be my two. So I'm taking some positive that Harry Randall's there. That's kind of all the positivity I've got. In terms of a combined team, well, there's the South African team firstly. I did a video on this earlier. Go and check that out in the channel. But as I said, RG Snyman is in at second row. Other than that, the whole pack, which you'd expect. And the back line, Marnie Lebok is chosen over Andre Pollard. A chance for redemption for him from the World Cup semi-final when he got taken off after half an hour. Still got Andre Pollard as an insurance policy on a 5-3 split on the bench. And Grant Williams gets the start at scrum half. That is my combined 23-man squad. And I take no pleasure in that, I'll be honest. Only 3 Englishmen in it. I've gone for Maro Itoje over RG Snyman. That's a close call, mind you, but I think Itoje's incredible. I've gone for Ben Earl over Jasper Wiese. I could have gone for Sam Underhill over Siya Kolisi if Sam Underhill had played a bit more recently. And yes, South African fans, we're in England now, so we do the blindside flanker in 6 and open side flanker in 7. Whenever the game's in South Africa, I do it the other way around. I've gone for Marcus Smith at fly half over Marnie Lebok. Both great players. Other than that, I mean, you tell me if you disagree. I couldn't think of a single Englishman that would take the jersey of his opposite number wearing green this weekend, which you won't be surprised to realise, however, as a result, that I think South Africa are going to win this one, and possibly quite handsomely. I think South Africa by 17 points. There's my prediction. I'm going to have a good time while I'm there. I'm going to be out amongst the fans. I'm going to be bringing you a load of content on the channel. I might not be seeing an England W, but that's not the be-all and end-all, is it? It'd be boring if we knew what the result was going to be. You never know. I know South Africans don't like being the favourites. So you never know. Hopefully it's a great game and a good occasion. Hopefully the fans are in full voice, both in green and gold and in white. And I'll be there to capture it for you here on Egg Chasers. I'll see you on the next video.